Find your future by exploring your world. The Massachusetts School of Law challenges their students to explore the important issues of our time, learning from experts in fields like politics, sports, and business law. From first-hand accounts and dramatic reenactments, in-depth conversations with society's leaders, from historians to lawyers, from high-tech professionals to environmental experts. The Massachusetts School of Law at Andover presents mslaw.edu.
Hello and welcome to mslaw.edu. This show is produced by the Massachusetts School of Law at Andover. Please Can We Keep the Donkey features dozens of personal accounts of successful animal adoptions and animal rescues. These entertaining stories describe rewarding relationships with animals: dogs, cats, birds, a snake, a pony, and yes, of course, a donkey. What makes this book unique is the fact that here at the Massachusetts School of Law is a group of individuals gathered in a single building to study law, and yet they have a common willingness to help animals and various experiences of having done so. All the proceeds of this book are used to assist animals. People have different perception of lawyers and of the legal field. Animal lovers, animal activists are generally not one of them.
Last row on the left, against the wall, second cage from the end. He was the only dog not barking. I had a dog already and wasn't sure about adopting another, but I decided to go see him anyway. A coworker had asked earlier in the day, "Did you know there's a standard at the Centerville Animal Shelter?" I couldn't think about anything else for the rest of the day. The dog was emaciated to only 40 pounds and was listed as black. He had been brought in a couple of days earlier with a miniature schnauzer. Both had been severely neglected and abused. The animal control officer said they had been left outside year-round and had very little socialization. The schnauzer had already been adopted by a volunteer at the shelter. When I saw him, he had been given a bath, and it was obvious that he was gray, not black. I talked to him through the noise of the other dogs and the chain-link fence that separated us. He sat quietly and offered his paw. I was hooked.
Wonderful, Open. Tell us what happens.
Well, when I left the shelter that day, they told me that if I was interested, I'd be fourth on the list. Mm-hmm. And I was very disappointed. I thought,
your heart sunk.
Yeah. Thought, well, if that many people are already interested in him, there's no way I'm gonna be able to get him. But I put my name on the list anyway. And the fact that I didn't have any children and that I already had a standard worked in my favor. Mm-hmm. They knew that I knew what it was to make that kind of a commitment to that kind of a dog. And so I called on the day after he had his surgery. He hadn't yet been neutered, and was told that I could have him. Wow. So I immediately jumped in the car with my checkbook. I even forgot my wallet that day. And I had my other dog with me because we had to make sure that we get along. And we drove down to the animal shelter, and everything went okay. The meeting was pretty cool between the two dogs. And we loaded him up and took him home. It was pretty obvious. His abuse was obvious when we got him home. Besides being very thin, and he was afraid of everything.
You say in your story he was even afraid of you.
Yeah. Every time you'd go to pet him or put your hand out, he would cower, and go out down to the ground. And it was pretty obvious he'd never been on stairs. He was afraid of the stairs when he got in the house. Mm-hmm. We had a dog door. It was pretty obvious he'd never seen a dog door. So he took cues from my other dog, though, and I think that helped him a lot. She made him feel comfortable, and I often say he taught her how to be a dog, and she taught him how to be a poodle. And the rest is history, I guess.
What's her life? What is your two dogs' lives like today?
Well, they have free run of the house and the yard. They have a dog door. Everywhere we've lived, we've gotten a dog door. And they are, in the beginning, they were indifferent towards one another. She would keep him off the couch. She would stay on the couch and keep him off, and didn't like him. She would pull her feet in anytime he would pass by. And now they're inseparable. If one's in the other room, they always go and check on each other. They they become distressed if they can't find each other. We had one. There was a short time when my female had to go into to the hospital, animal hospital, for overnight, and he was upset about that. Where's my sister?
Wow.
So they get along very well.
That's wonderful. Last thing I want to talk about, you're leaving the day that you adopted Jake.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're going out the door with Jake, a woman stops because her daughter wants to pet your
Right.
dog. Tell us that story.
Well, I'm filling out the paperwork and everything necessary to take the dog, and there's a little girl, and she said she goes towards my dog, and she goes to pet him, and the mom says, "Oh, don't pet that dog, he's ugly." And the little girl came back, and I thought he was. I guess I looked through other people's eyes for the first time because I saw something else, and I realized that he was very skinny and pretty rough looking at that point. He had never in his whole life been to a groomer. He'd probably had his first bath at the animal shelter there. So because he was black when they brought him in, and I just knew based on his temperament and the way he acted in the shelter that he would be the right dog for me. I mean, he wasn't barking. He was well behaved. He had the typical, mannerisms and similar to my other dog. And so I knew there was a dog underneath all that was. They're all that way though.
Yes, they are. And you say today that when you're out walking your dogs, people stop now and say, "Oh, look at that beautiful dog."
Yeah.
And then when you tell them that Jake came from a shelter, they seem flabbergasted by that.
Yeah, they're often surprised. They say, "I've never seen a dog like that at the shelter," and I say, shelters are full of dogs like that.
Tony arrived in New Hampshire from an overcrowded shelter in Radford, Virginia on April 6th of 2003. He was found as a very young pup loose in the woods. Shelter workers assumed he was dumped there by someone who didn't want to care for him any longer. His new parents were waiting anxiously to meet him. The transporters had forewarned us at New England Dog Lift that Tony, a 12-week-old Labrador Retriever mixed pup, was not getting along with his companion Trey, an adult lab mix coming to New Hampshire from the same shelter. We assumed that it was a result of the stress of transport. We had no idea that this adorable little puppy would turn out to be the problem child that he was. What happened?
Well, there's a shelter in Radford, Virginia that's overcrowded on a regular basis, and we work with them. We transport the dogs from Radford, Virginia up to New Hampshire, place them in foster homes. Tony, I had received a picture actually of Tony from the shelter, adorable picture, and I said absolutely we can find him a home, shouldn't be a problem at all. And we posted him on Pet Finder and had applications immediately, people that wanted to adopt him. So the family that was set to adopt him was pre-approved by us and actually waiting for the transport. He was really the most adorable puppy that you'd ever see. Had no idea the problems that we were going to have with him. He was fear aggressive, and I think it was a result of him being, left in the woods, not being properly socialized, and he was quickly thrown out of his first home.
Tell the audience a little bit about the day you go to retrieve Tony when you get the call to, quote, come get him.
I was actually at work that day, and I got a call on my cell phone saying, we adopted Tony, you need to call me right away. So I called the new owner, and she said, you have to come get him. He's out of control. I just can't take it. So drove to Henniker, New Hampshire from Manchester, New Hampshire to go pick him up. When I got to the home, I walked in the house and I saw this little puppy running from one end of the house to the other. He literally jumped on the coffee table, jumped on the kitchen chairs, jumped on the kitchen table and down, and he just kept running around. And the adopter was watching him, it was almost a deer-struck look in her eyes as she was watching him. And as I'm watching him run through the house, I said, how long has he been doing this? And she said, since he got here. So she very, very quickly handed me his toys and his dog food and his crate and all of the special things they had bought to welcome him, and showed me the door. So off I went back to my house with Tony.
What happens from there?
Well, we tried 2 additional homes with Tony. The problem with Tony was he was fear aggressive, so he would be in his crate, and this is really what turned him off from the adopters. He'd be in his crate, and he wouldn't come out because he was a little fearful still of people, and the people would reach in to pull him out, you know,
Yep.
with care, but all the same, he's backed into a crate. He's fearful, and he would growl and snarl, and I call it like the puppy Cujo look. And he was trying to bite people. So came to my house, I called my trainer and said, what am I going to do with this dog? So we did a lot of one-on-one training. I learned personally a lot about fear aggression, and we started working with him. And you know, he came around very quickly, but there was a lot. We put a lot of effort into it.
That was year 2003,
Yes, it was.
5 years ago. Where's Tony today?
Tony now has his CGC, which is his Canine Good Citizen. It's an American kennel, from the American Kennel Company, I believe it is, has a CGC, which is your Canine Good Citizen certification. So he's got CGC. He's Delta certified as a therapy dog. So we go to the nursing home. He's been evaluated by the Delta Society, which is a national organization. And he's, you know, been approved. He goes to the nursing home, visits with the seniors. They adore him. I call him sort of my demo dog whenever we are doing demonstrations in public for, you know, our rescue organization. He goes with me and does tricks.
He does agility.
He does agility. We've done 2 years in a row, done a fundraiser for the Floating Children's Cancer Center in Boston, where we were paired up actually with a child cancer survivor, and actually our child did, you know, the agility route with him. So yeah, he's what I call our poster child for training, really. He's an amazing dog now, and when I look back to 2003, it's unbelievable that he's come this far.
And he continues to reside in your home.
Oh, he does, yeah.
Yeah.
After the 3rd failed home, you know, we'd take a few steps back every time we tried to place him, because the new home, you know, they essentially was if Tony would get away with things. I remember the last home telling me he jumped up on the couch, and when my husband asked him to get off, he growled at him, which, you know, was sort of Tony's, it became his mantra. And every time he succeeded at that, he would say, oh, this is great, this works great, and he would continue it. So, yeah, after the 3rd failed adoption, my son looked at me one day and said, Mom, this is just ridiculous, and he needs to stay.
Marion, we don't need another Goddard stray, echoed down the halls of the Goddard School of Science and Technology, as my father realized he had just lost another stray animal battle. She had been at work since 9:15 a.m. on the rainy Saturday and found a tiny, flea-infested, soaking wet kitten. She had heard his cries and had opened the side door of the Goddard school, only to have him run through her legs and take refuge in her office. What happens from there, Dan?
Well, at first, like you said, my dad was very hesitant to take him home, and after spending the day in the office with the cat and my parents, we decided we should take him home and not leave him in the school, just for the sake of keeping himself out of trouble, and to give him something, you know, to clean him up a little bit, and kind of take it from there, see where would we go. And it again, like you said, my dad lost another battle, and he ended up spending the night, and it turned into 2 days, turned into the trip to the vets to get the flea medicine, and we ended up getting him fixed, and that is the introduction of Seamus. That's how he fixed his place in the Guerra household, and he has never left since. So
Now, I have to say, I know you.
yeah,